Well, the FBI file on the Weather Underground is deep and extensive. Not only did Ayers and his wife hide from the feds for a decade, but at one point she wound up on the 10 most wanted list. So with bombings, armed robberies, and even murder on the resumes of some Weather Underground members, how did some of these folks wind up holding prestigious jobs at top U.S. universities? I asked Ayers about it. Ultimately, you wound up in Chicago. You got a job teaching with the University of Illinois. Do you see any irony in accepting a government paycheck in winding up where
Absolutely
you did?
not. What's the irony? Explain it to me.
Spent a life opposing the government regime, wanting to throw down the government, as you put it. Your wife miraculously got a job teaching law, or teaching at Northwestern University Law School.
Very successfully, absolutely.
Which is amazing. They must be offering classes in what you can learn from your future clients. But are you surprised that you got those job offers, you and she? Given
Not
your history?
really. I mean,
she was on the FBI's 10 most wanted list.
I know. So was Angela Davis. And, you know, a lot of great people have been on that list.
Sure they have. Sorry. This is Joe Connor who you're seeing here. We have to laugh, although we weren't laughing along. Joe's father, seriously, was murdered in a terrorist attack by the FALN. Now, that's a group that wanted to bring about Puerto Rican independence through violent means. He knows a lot about the Weather Underground. Also with us, Andrew McCarthy. He's a former federal prosecutor who helped work to keep one of the Weather Underground members behind bars. Wait till you hear what happened to her. And he's a National Review contributing editor. Good of both of you to be here. There's a lot of great people on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. That's a fantastic list.
Yeah, it's people you want to hang out with.
Yeah, so, you know, let me start with you on this, Andy, because Bill Ayers, I think it was interesting as you watched the Dinesh D'Souza debate where you listen to him. He's intellectual. He's a compelling figure. He makes points. You may disagree with him. You may agree with him. But he seems kind of reasonable on some points. Then you saw the full interview that I did with him, and I think we saw a different man.
Yeah, well, I think the thing with Ayers is he does what every lying criminal does, which is he knows what the known facts are. He knows what you're in a position to prove and what can be proved in court, and he knits his story around it. So it turns out that Ayers had smart bombs before the Pentagon did. He's got the bombs that like rattle the glass but don't kill the people, and we never did anything violent. In the meantime, if you go back and look at his own words, which you went through with him.
I've never seen anybody do that with him before. Right. Show him the evidence in his face and say, you did do it, you admitted to it, but like so many people who don't tell the truth, he has forgotten.
But he's gotten away, Megyn, he's gotten away with it for 40 years. Why shouldn't he? You look.
And that's where we pick up today.
Right.
He not only has he gotten away with it, and the others, but they have been embraced by the academic community, Joe. I mean, you look at that full screen. Look at there. Ayers, University of Chicago. Bernadine Dohrn is at Northwestern Law School. My head is going to explode. Kathy Boudin, who served 20 years for murdering 2 cops and a security guard, is at Columbia University. Yeah. And this other one at New York City high schools.
I have a son who's going to be graduating high school next year, and we're looking at colleges. I would want to know as a parent where my kid is going. If you bought food, you find out what the ingredients are. If I'm going to pay $60,000, I want to find out that we have terrorists teaching our kids.
And City College wanted to honor the folks who killed your father in a terrorist attack here in New York.
They had a community center named for Guillermo Morales and Asante Shakur, who was Morales was the bomb maker for the FAL, and Shakur was Joanne Chazamard, who killed Warner Forster on the New Jersey Turnpike. And they had a community center honoring them, a place where my father went to college. So this is what we're dealing with the left in this country. When they realized, Megyn, that they couldn't beat us by bombing us, by attacking, they turned to academia, they turned to the media, they turned to law, and they got to in government. And now we've seen the result of that. It's been generational. It's been slow growth. But it's happened, and that's what we have now.
They're everywhere. I mean, when you look at where they wound up, they're at these prestigious universities. They are hobnobbing with future presidents. Right. It's insane when you think about the extent of their influence today.
Except, Megyn, that the campus is where it all began. This is where the revolution grew up. This is where it started. This is where it grew out from. On the campus, they are iconic figures because the formative experience of people who now run the institutions of opinion, very much including the campus, are the Vietnam War, the anti-war protest, the Watergate scandal, the COINTELPRO, the domestic spying scandals and the like. They came to attach nobility to a war against the United States. And if you go back and read their own words, it was very much a war against the United States during which they wanted to mass murder Americans, not just rattle a bunch of glass.
Why? But, you know, people used to talk about Ayers and Obama, President Obama. Like, you need to pay attention to this. Why? Why is it relevant if they were only friendly, if he did an event in the living room? Why?
Yeah. Well, would you associate, as a person, would you associate with a known terrorist? We're talking about our president. We're not talking about a local mayor. We're not talking about a friend. We're talking about the president of the United States associating himself with a known terrorist. And not only him. There's others in Chicago. There's Jose Lopez, Oscar Lopez's brother. We see that our president has been dealing with terrorists. How could we have fallen so low? I mean, it just boggles the mind.
He didn't just know him. He endorsed him. He endorsed his book. Ayers wrote a book called A Kind and Just Parent. Obama said it was a searing and timely account.
Talk about not Barack Obama, but Eric Holder, because he has an interesting role in all of this as well. Tell us.
Well, sure. Holder was the Deputy Attorney General during the Clinton administration who engineered the FALN pardons that Joe's talking about.
Pardoning the group that killed your father.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And by the way, the audience should know, they weren't sitting in jail asking for a pardon.
No, they didn't request it.
The Clinton administration reached out to them through Eric Holder, who was helping them,
came up with
and
the
said, hey, how'd you like to get out of jail? And they said, oh, that would be great.
Well, they didn't. At first, they didn't. They denied it for 30 days. And one of them, Oscar Lopez, who I mentioned before, denied it altogether. So you had an attorney general, a future attorney general, and a president pushing the release of terrorists who didn't want it.
And what did he do with respect to the Weather Underground?
Well, the last day of Clinton's term in office, he walked out the door 2 Weather Underground terrorists. Everybody remembers the Mark Rich pardon. Right. What they don't remember are Susan Rosenberg and Linda Evans. Who
and what happened to Susan Rosenberg? What's she doing now?
Well, she ended up for a while teaching at, I think it was John Jay College.
Teaching at another college.
Right, to college. I think she then went to Hamilton for a while.
My mind is going to explode. It's going to explode.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how we're supposed to screen for this when we send our kids to college.
Well, because
could you ask them whether they have a criminal history? Could you ask them whether they ever bombed anything? Could you make sure your professor didn't do that before you start listening to him?
It's a PhD in social justice. That's basically when you come out of federal prison after a terrorism conviction, you might as well have been getting an academic degree because that's the way you get treated.
I got to go, but quickly, what did you think of the Ayers exchange? What did you think of the whole thing?
I thought that he was a liar. I think he's a punk. I saw that face that a normal human being would say he obfuscated, he lied. He was just like every other terrorist. He blamed the Vietnam War for things, justifying his own homicide, at least sociopathology
he denied
for the Vietnam
homicides.
War. Yeah, but there was an officer killed, and he was a member of that conspiracy that killed the officer. And then when he talked about being anti-war, he wasn't anti-war. He was anti-American winning the Vietnam War. Well, and that's what he was about.
And sounds, as he said explicitly, not proud to be an American to this day. Guys, good to see you.
Thanks, Megyn.
A pleasure. Thank you.